Okay, I think we start. It's 5 minutes after 3. We have, I think, the majority of the planned attendees are there, so I think it's good reason to start. Hello, everybody. This is, I mean, most of you know me probably. Today I'm actually quite alone, but I think I will manage. My name is George Heinemann. I'm in sales for the Lufft optical sensors, and today I will give you an introduction to different applications of the ceilometer. By the way, we are recording this webinar, so you will have also the chance to review it at a later stage. We have actually muted again all of you because well, we look forward to your feedback, but it is actually better to do it via the chat button and not via microphone in order to avoid any turbulences or, let's say, miscommunication events. I hope you can understand me all. If you have any technical issues, the same, just raise a question and via the chat button, and then I can take care of. So yeah, let's start. It will actually start with a reference. So in order to understand what kind of applications we can cover with the ceilometer, I give you a short introduction to the features or to the main features of the CHM15k, and then I have 4 different applications prepared for you. Standalone operation in research and forecasting, and then network operation, as well as operation at airports via the traffic in the traffic segment. Well, to start with, it is interesting, or I think it is useful to remind ourselves about what we want to measure with the ceilometer, and therefore you should understand the different atmospheric particles or weather parameters you have in the air, and there's a huge variety, like starting from the sun, different clouds, water vapor, temperature differences, and so on. So there you can actually distinguish in general between atmospheric and non-atmospheric particles when you talk about aerosols, and you have some other features. With our instrument, we look basically at aerosols, and you have different non-atmospheric and atmospheric aerosols. To start with, atmospheric particles are mainly aerosol particles, and also droplets we can measure. They're like clouds, different clouds at different levels, and then we have non-atmospheric particles like smog from industrial use or applications, as well as volcanic ash and so on. There are different systems which can detect these kind of parameters. The most common, popular, and effective method is to use the LiDAR technology, which is actually light detection and ranging, sending out a laser beam, getting back a backscatter signal, and via this process you have a backscatter profile, like a reflection from the aerosols, and you can actually, if you look here, you can process this information through the detector, and then via the data acquisition point, you have you get the data. There are different LiDAR systems. Our system is actually quite remarkable in the way that it's in between to a standard ceilometer and a complex LiDAR system. So you can actually have different laser types. It can be very big. You can actually separate data acquisition and the laser. It all depends on which type of LiDAR system or technology you use. The benefit of our ceilometer is that we have used quite a standard approach. It's a ceilometer approach, but we have used quite a sensitive or powerful light source. It's actually a single wavelength laser pulse, and this wavelength is chosen in a way that we cover, let's well, we think the most important aerosols and droplets. So they are scattered by different molecules, droplets or aerosols. It is actually a wavelength which is still operating near infrared, so it means that the cost of this laser is still reasonable, and also the stability is high, meaning that if you have different wavelengths, you use it is probably more costly, or the stability is suffering. So we are actually around 1 micrometer. To be exact, it's at 1064 nanometers wavelengths, and this is covering quite a lot of aerosols and different particles in the air. But we still in a range that it's the wavelength is still near infrared. We have also the frequency chosen in a way that it's a low power mode, so that's quite important when you run the system. So you don't need any special power source for it, and we have a lot of different. We still have a high frequency laser, so we operate in an eye safety range. There's no extra security measurement needed, access restriction, and so on. It is a 1M laser product, so you can deploy it wherever you want, actually, even in public places and so on. And very important for LiDAR systems, it's an easy system operation and service. So and you see it quite well here in the inner components or inner side of the instrument, that there are different components. You can actually easily retrieve them and exchange them, so it's a modular concept. It is a 24/7 hour operation is possible, so you don't need to be there. This is not always the case for, and so basically it's a standalone system. Everything is included, but it's not standard for such systems. So if you look, I have prepared a nice comparison with a Raman LiDAR system. So this is the other extreme, let's say. I mean, we are not covering all the different functions as the Raman LiDAR, but just to give you a perspective, this is a very complex laser system which actually fits only in a container. You have here like different components which are quite big. You can't run this LiDAR system like autonomously and 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week. So you always have you have to consider different parameters. It's also weather dependent. Some systems even have the window has to be opened not automatically, but it depends on the situation of the laser, and some laser beams are dangerous for air traffic, for example. So then you also have to have a time schedule in order not to interfere with air traffic. So this is not in our case. I mean, as you have seen, we have a very compact unit. It is quite handy. It is actually more like a standard ceilometer, but it has some extra features. And so this is just to give you the background, to understand what kind of applications are really possible with our ceilometer. Because what we have seen so far with the CHM15k is that we have really quite a number of atmospheric research application, and they, of course, they make use of quite a lot of different quite a lot of different features. The first feature which I wanted to tell you is actually 15,000 meters, but I wrote 5,000 meters. I should now right away live correct it. Sorry for that, but it's actually quite. Yeah, are we still here? Yes. So well, it's a standalone operation. So this is the very first feature we see here on the picture. It's quite nice. You just put it on a shell on an even stand. You connect the wires. In most of the cases, you only need 2 wires, one for powering, one for communication. We have Ethernet interface or RS485 internet interface, so you can choose. And then you just plug it in, you start it, and you can start to measure on its own. You have actually backscatter profiles between 5 meters and 15,000 meters, so this is quite unique for the ceilometer range, that you really get above 8,000 meters. You have different cloud layers covered, up to 9 layers. You have aerosol detection. It's possible. You can detect the mixing layer height or the planet boundary layer, and also the visibility. And that's very important, you have real-time information on a 24/7 hour basis. So this is quite useful in the atmospheric research segment, that you have you can just have a timeline of data available. You can just let it run, and then after 7 days you access the system and you can just analyze and retrieve the data. And you don't have to be there, so you don't have to be standby and operate the system, which is for the other LiDAR systems not always the case. What does it mean in real? I have here given you an example from Berlin. It's quite a typical day. It was in April 2015. We have like a picture of our, like a quick looks from the whole day. You have different aerosol detections or cloud layers detected. It's quite nice to see that at 2,000 meters you have the mixing layer more or less. It's changing a bit. Actually, you see quite nicely that towards evening it's growing. You have here like different cloud layers. Here you see that the signal is going really to the ground. So this is most probably a precipitation incident, so the raindrops go quite down, and so therefore you have a backscatter signal complete time. You have above this 4,000 to 5,000 meters, you also have information, so this is an indicator that we are really operating in the 14 or 15 kilometer area, and here you have even more intensity, so there might be some extra aerosols in the air. And that's also mostly the time, most of the case. Here you see the sensitivity. Here plays the sensitivity of the system an important role, that you have normal signal, normal signal, or I don't know if you can say normal signal, but you have signal intensity at normal levels, like let's say between green, from blue to green. This you can say maybe that these are atmospheric particles, water droplets, and so on, normal clouds. And then if it's getting more intense, the backscatter profile, you can talk more about either it's rain really, or you have extra particles in the air. And then therefore you can say, well, this is probably a case of extra dust or pollution at quite high levels. So this is the first measurement example. We have a second one, and that's now a bit more interesting, because maybe when you see Berlin on the map, it's quite in a flat area. You don't have a lot of like turbulences in the atmosphere, although we have definitely some pollution also here in this in the city. The other example I wanted to show you was the Alps. The test site from Meteo Swiss in Payerne, where they have one of their biggest weather observation stations, and here they have tilted the instrument 45 degrees, which is actually not recommended, but they said they do it on their own risk in order to comply or to succeed in measuring quite an interesting approach. So they're actually shooting the laser over the valley, and you can see that in the background you can see also some mountains. So they really want to see what is happening over the valley, across the valley. They want to see what is happening at the mountains of the other sides, what kind of aerosols do go up or go down during the day, and so on. So they tilted it. Actually the system worked quite well, although we didn't recommend it, but it performed. So that's also a nice indicator of the quality. And what did we get out of it? It is quite a very remarkable picture or quick looks image from the retrieved data. It was in March 2014. you have a lot of different things happening, so it's maybe good to start at the lower ground. So here you have a mixing layer at maybe 1 kilometers, if you can say even less. You have a blend boundary layer here where you have different things happening. Then you have at between 2 and 3 kilometers you have one big event, and that's actually a pollution layer from the Po Valley. So it's most probably from northern Italy, a lot of industrial activity there. So the wind brings it up and brings it over the Alps, and of course, from experience with other instruments, with other measurement campaigns, you can then say that it's most probably from the north, and it's a pollution layer from North Italy. However, and that's the nice thing about the instrument, you can't really say, well, this is really PM 2.5 or PM 10, but you can say at what time, at which height this pollution layer is and how it is moving throughout the day. So you can nicely see that in the morning you have more, and then during the day it's diluting a little bit, and then at some point it is even gone. And then you have at higher levels you have the Saharan dust, which is also quite remarkable because you can see it clearly from the intensity that it's a cloud which is not, it can't be an atmospheric particle or atmospheric cloud because the signal intensity is quite strong. And you can see how it is moving, and that is also diluting throughout the day. But again, you can say, well, safely, there's no, for example, like if you say, what kind of implication has these kind of events for the human health or for the breathing? It's happening, the Saharan dust at least, it's happening at around 4 kilometers, so you don't have any threat for the human beings living close by to the site. However, you can see that it's really moving throughout the day, so it most probably has an impact on climate or the weather. Another example of an application is weather forecasting at KNMI with the ceilometer on offshore marine platforms. This shows nicely that the ceilometer is deployed on a platform, and here you can see that there's actually not a lot of space for more, so it's quite nice that we have a standalone compact instrument. However, there are some requirements to fulfill in order to have to go offshore, let's say it. It is very important actually that it is operating on its own. It should be very robust. It should be weatherproof, the housing, and most importantly that you really don't have a lot of service and maintenance. And therefore, for KNMI, we had to adjust a number of things. So first of all, we included a modem extension in order to really maintain that in some more rural or remote places, for example, on platforms, you have stable data delivery or communication. In this case, there's most likely also satellite communication, but the modem extension really makes sure that you have also that the velocity of data transmission is to the router or to the satellite modem. It's maintained. Secondly, the dehumidification bags inside the instrument are important. Here you can see that they're normally inside the instrument placed at the inner door, and you have to open the door and replace the bags once in a while. It really depends on humidity levels on a platform. There's a lot of humidity, so there was a high fear for KNMI to say there's a lot of humidity, how often do we have to change the bags? Do we always have a technician who can open the instrument and replace them? So we have come up with actually secured bags, so that if they forget to replace the bags, or if they are not able to replace the bags on time, that they don't break and the content is spilling into this instrument, but they break in a secured way, meaning that we have kind of a bag or an extra bag which is catching the content. So that's also an adaptation we had to comply with. And then, of course, the SD card question. So safety of data is always quite important, and also to identify the single point of failure. And the SD card was a single point of failure for our system, meaning that if the SD card fails, the complete system shuts down or is not anymore working. So we had to change the firmware. You can see it nicely here that it's actually part of the controller. You can access the SD card also on your own to retrieve the SD card. So this is actually quite a nice feature because you can really physically retrieve data. You have it separate, and you can, if the data communication via the modem or via the RS485 is not possible, or you haven't received data, you can get the SD card and do it physically, that you retrieve the SD card, you put it into your laptop, and you have the data. However, there are two challenges, or we had to solve two challenges. First, we had to make sure that the SD card is not a single point of failure, that if it's not working, the SD card, then the system doesn't work. This is quite not really good when you have the platform somewhere in the North Sea and then suddenly the SD card breaks down and you have to fly there, and then you don't have the data and the system is not working. So that was the first point, and then the second thing is that you have sufficient data storage. So we have actually increased the volume, so up to 64 GB can be saved on the SD card. Even so, when now you have a high resolution retrieval of data, then you can at least 6 months easily store data there on the SD card, and then you can actually move the data. So this was another challenge we had to comply with, where we had what is a good example how you can deploy the instrument in the field. Then the network operation is actually the next step, and that's quite an interesting approach in order to say, well, we have the instrument, we don't want to only measure near the Alps, but we want to have the complete geographical area covered in order to really have a near real-time aerosol profiling, and we can also follow the aerosols and can say, well, how is the mixing layer developing in the complete region? Is it growing or is it decreasing? At what time of the day is it, and so on? And so you can really make you have really a complete geographical area covered, and you have a real-time monitoring system. Different features are like wished to be completed. Mainly the time and the altitude of the distribution of particulate matter, so of non-atmospheric particles want to be measured. At what time, at what height we have the different aerosols, but also the mixing layer height should be watched, and that was also an interesting requirement. And it's mainly the idea behind it is to, of course, to make also climate research, but for air quality research and also monitoring, it's quite important to say, how is the mixing layer developing throughout the day in the complete region? Do we have to shut down like transport or car traffic in one region because winter holidays are starting and pollution is too high in the Alps and so on? So this is quite interesting, and in reality we have seen it in order to stay close to the Alps. We have actually quite a nice reference in Italy, where you can see that there are like more than actually nowadays there are even 9 instruments available in the network. It is called ALICE, Automated Lidar Ceilometer Network. It is run actually by different Italian research institutions and environment agencies. So there you can see that the combination of research and also air quality measurements. You can also see that it's distributed over the complete country. We have even in southern Italy some instruments, and here you can see that it's not only focused on the high polluted areas like Rome, or even North Italy with all the industry, and at some point also the winter holiday skiers, as you may put it. But you also have South Italy, so it is also clearly to stress the point that they want to measure the movement in the complete geographic region of the different aerosols and particulates. It is interesting to look at their website because, and that's a nice example how you can make use of a network approach. So first of all, you have this website here, and you can really scroll over the different instruments and you can see the deployment. So this is in Milano, and you have here in Aosta Valley. Here you can see that even a sun radiometer is co-located at the place in order to do advanced aerosol profiling and comparison. You have Bolzano here. This is Rome. Yes, this is downtown. There's also the sun radiometer, and then of course you want to see what is really happening, and therefore you can scroll down and you can see how different measurement profiles or quick looks are compared, and you can really see how the day is developing and what different events you have. So this is quite remarkable. So you have actually, this is actually in northern Italy, and then you go down to Rome, and you can see that mixing layers are different. At 1 meter kilometers, you have different events here. This looks like rain. We are now at 2 o'clock more or less, yes, so they are all on the same time, but you can see that in Rome it's not raining. Here you have some occasions, and here you have even more rain, and then you can go on the side and you can really see what is happening. And here this is a clear event that you have far more activity here. Different aerosols. Now of course it would be interesting to see what kind of aerosols is it. So there you need probably additional information, but it gives you a nice idea how networking can work. Of course, and that's for sure the case here. There is, if we go back on the homepage, what is necessary to do such a networking approach? You have to really compare the instruments, so they have to measure the same. So there was some calibration taking place, and also you need additional information in order to know when you have a stronger backscatter signal, what does it mean? So therefore the sun photometers are also placed next to it, and even here in Rome they have a depolarization unit in order to have a bit more information. So of course you have to consider that not only profiling, if you do want to do profiling on a larger level of aerosols, you need a bit more information than just detecting the aerosols. But I think it's a good example to see how networking can work. And then second, or the next application is traffic application in airports. This is quite interesting because this is actually I don't know if you say the original application for ceilometers, but it's the most, let's say, most common use of ceilometers using the cloud height detection and also the cloud cover information to safety for safe landing and safe operation of planes at airports. And if you look at airports, you should distinguish between different categories in general in order to be aware what kind of requirements are there and which instruments have to be chosen. So here you have a very basic overview of an automated weather observation system. It is of course located along the runway, and you have different sensor groups here which have to be deployed. This depends on the category, and then you have all the data transmission to the server and also to the different workstations. If you look at the runway, you have a primary touchdown area and the primary rollout area, and there you have the most critical activities. So therefore, you have to have additional weather instruments. You can principally say that you have a category 1 airport where you say that you have to have a primary touchdown area with additional instruments next to the standard instruments of wind, humidity, rain, and so on. So here you have to include the visibility, you have to include the ceilometer, which is this symbol, and so on. Here's also, I think that's it's a rain gauge, and this is the primary touchdown phase. Category 1 means that it is actually for all kind of planes, so even for smaller ones. I think the visual range is about minimum about 500, between 500 and 800 feet, and the category 2 actually is then when you say, well, additionally to the front area, you also have to have some additional instrument in the rollout area. So here you have also added then the visibility and also the ceilometer, and there you have of course a higher safety or higher precaution for safety operation secured in this way. And category 2 is definitely for all regional and international airports on a larger scale, where you have higher visibility and visual range requirements. In detail, so you can say that the maximum of ceilometers you need at one runway are 2. You can now say, well, what kind of requirements you need to fulfill in order to be deployed at an airport. There are different international standards to be completed or fulfilled. There's first of all the ICAO standard, where you have actually at least a very common one is the one from 2013, and the last one from the Federal Association, Aviation Association from the US is actually the Advisory Circular 150. So you have to complete these standards. If you look at the ceilometer, there's one very basic standard, and that is the color. It's not a specific requirement, but it is seen in some places. It's even a requirement, but it is at least popular to say that on airports the instrument has to be white and red. So we complete this requirement. We have a blue version, blue-colored version, and a white and red version. And then we have different requirements. Of course, the most basic and principal requirement is that we fulfill the multiple cloud layers. Actually, minimum is, I think, 3 layers. We have 9 layers, so we are well in this range. This is succeeded. The cloud cover has to be given in octaves. Ours is according to the WMO code, and so we comply with this feature. We have a sky condition index included, where you have precipitation events, fog, vertical visibility measured. Flexible powering is important in order to also maintain operation during power cuts or different power situations. So we have the standard 240 volt operation, we have 110 and 115 volt operation, and we also have battery backup included, where you can have at least a runtime of 1 to 2 hours in order to run the system on backup. We have various data telegrams. We have a standard telegram, an extended telegram, but we also comply with other telegrams which are, for example, needed in an airport environment like Meter or Speki, and so this is also given, and we have actually introduced the 8K mode. So this is quite new, and this is actually an interesting feature, because what we have seen is that our quality, which I tried to explain at the beginning, that we are quite strong in the higher areas, like above actually 5,000 meters. Our special laser source is quite sensitive, and we detect quite a lot of clouds, is sometimes not wished on airports. Let's put it like this. So it's giving the standard airport operators too much information, too many cloud hits, and so on. So it's quite confusing. So they insist actually to limit it to a certain range. So we have introduced this actually also for the CHM15k. There is a mode where you can say, well, you shouldn't give me the clouds above 8,000 meters or 8 kilometers. So we have a limitation of range. However, you have to comply with a reporting resolution of 5 meters. So every 5 meters you have data, and you have to have a reporting cycle of 2 seconds in order to comply with the requirement to be always up to date and have very short reporting cycles. So we call this the 8K mode, because it is the range, maximum range is 8 kilometers. This is introduced, this is tested, so we have the firmware updated on this, and it is quite useful for airports. So meaning that we have actually a lot of green ticks here, so you can see that we comply with airport requirements. It is for sure, and that you shouldn't forget, is that we are not certified. So actually we haven't completed the complete official certification of, for example, FAA. However, we comply with the standards. So there's also, and that you should remember, that there are two ways to see it. There are some cases or airports where you have to be certified, where the instrument has to be certified, or where you have airports where you say, well, it's sufficient if you comply with the requirements, and you don't have to be officially certified by the authority. This is actually in case for international airports, especially in North America. In Europe, we have a lot of cases where they say, well, you have to be approved by the National Weather Service. So, for example, in Germany, through the German Weather Service, the DWD, this is also possible, and then you have to look at what the weather or the National Weather Service is saying. Yeah. So to sum up, we have seen a number of applications. Surely we haven't seen all of applications. There are plenty other applications. For example, aerospace we haven't seen, or defense. This is in both cases it is also research driven, but sometimes also even operational. The most common applications I think we have seen, this is research, it's forecast, airport, and more air pollution. Really, people want to see what is happening in the atmosphere, at what height we have what kind of air pollution, for how long, and so on. So a number of applications, but also these lots of applications also require a lot of flexibility. So I want to conclude actually with a nice example from KNMI, from our customer in Holland, for the Dutch Weather Service, where they have said, well, we have to replace now such a high number of ceilometers. It's not always easy to get the ceilometers out there. I have talked about the certain size. I mean, there are other ceilometers which are like smaller and handier, but as I said, this is also then affecting the quality of the laser. So there's a reason why we have such a big instrument, but they said, well, you know, the transport is an issue, so they introduced this automatic transport vehicle. They also call it actually Dolly, and Dolly is actually doing it automatically now, that they, in the warehouse, they load Dolly, they put the ceilometer on it, they put it they drive it into the service vehicle or transport vehicle, and then they drive it to the site, and the dolly is automatically via remote control going to the place and deploying the salometer. So yeah, so it's actually nice, a good example for being flexible, and this is also our policy to say, well, there's so many different applications. We have to be flexible in order to make it work for the customer, and so you can also be assured that we try to be very flexible in order to complete or to comply with the requirements of you or your end customer. Yeah, that's all from my side for today. Thanks a lot for your attention. I think we still have some time for questions. I would love to answer you. Actually, I extended my time a bit, so we are now at 3:45. But if you still have questions, please bring them forward. Yeah, I have. Let me check here. Yeah. Okay, I have seen a lot of questions. Let me see. One moment. Okay. So first of all, you have yeah, data volumes. So Matt Tooley from, yeah, can you say anything about data volumes? Let me put it on the screen here. Yeah. Okay, wait a second. This is really cumbersome, but we have it almost there. Now it's gone, but I can open it again. Yeah, so can you say anything about data volumes? Well, we have different data volumes. It is actually depending on your resolution. We can, as I said, we have a standard operation of 8 GB and 16 GB, which you have a data resolution from 15 to 20 seconds, and then also the meters should be the same. So then you have like 3 months to 6 months. However, storage time. However, if you have higher resolutions, 5 meters and so on, then you have less time. So you need an extension of the SD card. In general, what you can safely say that in 1 year you need between 10 GB is good, but maybe you need 15 GB of data. But it really depends on your resolution. So it also, yeah, sorry, but but to give you an orientation, like 15 GB, you're right. So normally, like every 6 months, you have to clear the data on the SD card. Okay. So yeah, so that was the first question. Then we have this question. Actually, I don't understand how big area in square meters CHM15 covers. So I think you mean that. Let me put it also on the screen. So it's actually not covering a big area, because it's on site. It's one laser beam, so you cover only the site, maybe 5 meters around it. However, and that's the way the CHM15k works. It is considering like also data from the past, and then it's making a forecast and bringing the data together. So you have actually two hours in the past. The data is used in order to bring the data together to make estimations about the cloud cover, which you probably want to know in order to say or make an assumption about the cloud cover on the sky. It is considering the algorithm for the cloud cover is considering 2 hours in the past, and then it's calculating the cloud cover. Yeah. Then we have this question here, how to recognize type of dust in the air. Well, this is actually happening. Let me also put the question here. You have a lot of different particles in the air. It is actually the type of dust you can't really detect with the ceilometer. There are different other instruments who can do it, like special CO2 analyzers and so on. The Raman LiDAR I showed in the presentation are also possible to detect or to say something about the type, because they're using different wavelengths and they can change the channel, and then they can just compare the measurement results and say, well, this particle, the size and the dimension of the particle is according to this aerosol, and therefore you can say it's PM2.5. The ceilometer has only one single wavelength, and therefore you can't do it. You can just detect aerosols. You can say there's more intense reflection or less intense reflection according to the wavelength, which is around 1 micrometer. You can say at this range it is very sensitive, the laser is very sensitive, so if you have a very high backscatter signal, a very intense signal, you can say that the particle which was detected should be around this size, this micrometer size. So then you can make an assumption it is maybe dust or volcanic ash, but you don't have the confirmation, you don't have really the quantification of your information and the qualified assessment, so you need a different instrument. I hope that was more or less a good thing. We have still a number of questions, but let me keep going. Is the 8K the same model? Good question, actually. This is coming from the UK. Thank you, Andrew Barber. Well, we have, it's actually the same housing we will use. It is so the same features as you have seen. It is 1.5 meters high, the housing, same dimensions. However, the inside looks different. So we will change actually something with the laser source, because if you only want to go up to 8,000 meters, you don't need such a strong laser as we do at the moment. Then the firmware has to be changed, some algorithms, so inside of the housing there are some changes. Still, we are in a R&D phase, so I can't really tell you more. Even I don't know a lot of more, because it's still yet not there. But I hope this gives you quite a good indication. So you asked about the horizontal or vertical distance. Probably it was connected to the tilting of instrument in the Alps with Meteor Swiss. So the horizontal distance is generally given out when you have like the instrument not tilted. If you check the vertical distance, I mean, and the horizontal distance, of course, then you consider it when you tilt the instrument. So basically, when you talk about distance or range, it's always vertical with the ceilometer, and for sure, if you tilt it, you can also make an or you have the horizontal, but standard is vertical. Yeah. Yeah, reason for using the wavelengths is quite obvious, actually, because well, it's not obvious. It's depending on which particles you want to detect. So it's around 1 micrometer, or like around 1064 nanometers, means that we have chosen this wavelength because it has not only quite stable working conditions. So on this wavelength, it's not the laser is not really as much influenced by water vapor and temperature changes. However, it is also quite nice for particle detection, non-atmospheric particle detection, as I said, for dust or volcanic ash. It's around 1 micrometer. You cover quite a number of different particles. Yes. All right. Then we have this one. This question from Guillermo. Thank you. Well, it is the DSL modem is not cellular or satellite. It's actually just a replacement of or the extension of the Ethernet cable is to make sure that the delivery of the data is maintained at a certain speed. So it's not cellular or satellite. For sure, on the platform they have an external solution for this. Not sure what, but I can actually inquire for you. Same with the communication protocol. For sure, for the oscillometer speaking, this is going via the Ethernet cable. So then we have this question. This is actually interesting because it's one of our latest products, the CHM Simulator, which is actually considered for testing the instrument in the field. So you have a device which is actually carried to the oscillometer. It is put on the oscillometer, and it is used in order to simulate the clouds and different parameters in order to check the status of the system of the laser, basically, if it's still working according to your calibration, or if even the light source, the laser, is still has still the same performance. Sorry, and so that's basically the simulator. Okay, so I went through all questions. I hope I covered it. I really extended my time. I hope some of you are still there. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, so we still have, if you still have questions, let me know. I think we should really stop at this point, but I can show you again my email address. So in case you have the need, then please send me an email or communicate via our help email address, support email address, and we can surely help you. There are also a lot of information on the website, so this can also help. Last but not least, thanks again for your attention and also for your for staying with me a bit longer. And yeah, I hope you liked it. We have also, as I said, the recording later on the web, so if you want to revisit this webinar, it is also possible. Good. Thanks a lot. Let me finish here, or I mean, let me take a last look on questions if there are any further questions. But I think I don't see them here. Thanks a lot, and see you next time. Bye-bye.